So I've had a bit of a day out today. I was at the launch of the manifesto for the Workers' Party of Great Britain, invited by Mr. Galloway himself. So that was a press conference. And I sat there quietly because I every now and then just got the urge to sort of shout and scream and random. It being broadcast sort of on all platforms, live. I'm like sitting there saying, hey, would it be funny if I got up here and started acting the pan? And I didn't, but it was like an internal sort of giggle I was having. The press were, appointed to turn up. There was somebody from the Morning Star, there was somebody from Sky News, there was someone from the BBC, someone from the Telegraph, and someone from the Guardian, and that was it. Not the Guardian, sorry, the Mail. Nobody from the Guardian turned up. There's something has to be pointed to with George and his party. First of all, it's like the infrastructure of his party. It's ad hoc. It's thrown together. It lacks coordination and it lacks internal communication. As far as I'm concerned, it's chaotic, but it's honest, if you know what I mean. There's no party funds. Everybody who's got involved has got involved on their own dime, if you know what I mean. Everybody. So it's like there is a lack of organisation, and them trying to organise is it's taking organisation that there's a lack of. It's kind of a snake that eats itself. But there's a thing, you see. George has to retain his seat in Rochdale, in sunny Rochdale, this place. He's got to retain his seat in order to establish the Workers' Party as a feasible party, as to be able to get funding, to be able to afford the kind of organisation that it needs. It's a kind of a catch-22. But by way of having a kind of leader and someone who can handle and knows what handles situations and knows what he's doing, it's like George Galloway is the best politician, one of the smartest men that's in politics today. He could leave anyone who's in the game for dead, where it comes to let's talk about it, let's argue, let's make the case, let's have a debate. He could beat them all. And he's being completely excluded. Now, he's a leader of a party that's running with over 100 candidates in the coming election, yet he's not allowed to be on the BBC. He's not asked to take part in any debates. He's not receiving any coverage at all from the media. But they can't help but talk about Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage, Nigel Farage. Well, the truth of that is, in most parts of the country, I'm not going in hard on reform here. In certain places, they could be successful and a successful option. But the media is pushing them hard, and they're pushing them hard because a vote for reform is a vote for Labour. They've all already decided, and it's a matter of they won't even criticise the Workers' Party or George because they won't even give them that much respect. They're so frightened of a fair fight against them. They're frightened of a fair fight against George. They won't even give him bad publicity because they give him the right to reply. So he's being frozen out, completely ignored. His campaigns are even ignored in the local media. The Rochdale media, the Greater Manchester media has got absolutely nothing to say about George Galloway, but every day they run anything between 5 and 10 puff pieces about the Labour Party. So it's like it's already been decided by like an entire class of establishment and all their lackeys that we are getting a Labour Party supermajority, and the more we push reform, the more chance Labour have got of winning. And it'd be the truth. The threat to the Labour Party stranglehold that would actually give the likes of Reform and also, the Conservatives, a chance to win would be a strong turnout for the Workers' Party. You'd actually get some democracy if the Workers' Party were given a platform by anyone. But it's just been decided that George Galloway is somehow uncouth. It's been decided George is a climate change denier. George is transphobic, homophobic, therefore cannot be given a platform when he won a by-election quite soundly. I said before it happened he was going to win because he's got a massive inbuilt vote in Rochdale. Now, a victory in Rochdale is by no means guaranteed. Because there's a funny thing about elections in Rochdale. George could have been considered to have been a protest vote, as people used him as a kind of weapon to get revenge on the council and the wider Labour Party. But now they've taken the revenge, they could just go back to being simple-minded people who will vote with their allegiances. There's two Labour campaigns going on at the minute. One's a happy, slappy, smiley, green, safe space, rainbow agenda campaign. And another one that's going on behind the scenes, which is promising loads of people in the Asian/Muslim communities special rights, privileges and favours if they can drag their tribal vote along. That's what's going on. At the same time, there's all kinds of outside bodies who've got no business even getting involved in politics, certainly no business posting leaflets and doorstepping. No business at all. Hope Not Hate and the like. Extinction Rebellion and the like. Campaigning in Rochdale for the Labour Party. Why are they so frightened of George? If George was such a dangerous and divisive fool, the best way of dealing with a dangerous and divisive fool is to give them a platform and allow them to show themselves up as being dangerous and divisive. But they won't do that. You know why? Because George isn't either dangerous or divisive. To criticise him and give him a platform is actually to help him. So they're not going to do that even. The media set up the whole lot of it. The newspapers, the channels, even the big YouTube channels, are pathologically avoiding George Galloway, afraid of a fair fight, because George will always win a fair fight. And you can see it, and it's pathetic. It's there to be seen. Why don't I get platformed? I'm bloody good at arguing, a good debater, and I talk a lot of sense. Why don't I get platformed? For exactly the same reason. People are afraid that I might win. Funny old thing that, as to where, in that regard, at this moment in time, myself and George are kindred. Asked me today, why are you here? George invited me. It's like there was surrounding people who were like activists who come up from London, who'd met up in Rochdale to go to this today, to go to this event today. Like, you've met George? I'm like, well, yeah. It's like, who's your point of contact? Who do you know in this party? It's like, well, nobody. Just George Galloway. What? Yeah, I don't answer to anyone but George Galloway. Oh. So it's like I'm talking to the activists, mostly talking about football. Truth be told, talking about football with the activists, and they're like, "What are you doing here? What's your part? What do you do?" I was like, "Well, I'm on the sick at the minute. I'm on a lot of medication. I've got a bit of a bad heart, so I'm not doing a great deal." "Okay, so why are you here?" "Because George invited me." "All right, so you're a kind of hanger on." It's like, well, no, I've been like specially invited. He likes me. He's kind of my friend. "Really?" It's like I'm just someone who's tagged along. And then the minute when there's been a second where George lays eyes on me, he comes up to us, gives a big smile, grabs hold of us, gives a big hug, and he's like, "You all right, mate?" And they're like, "Okay, so yeah, right, George recruited you. You work for George. He's your guy." I'm like, "Yeah, I've got no kinship or association with the organisations around him, but I'll help George. He's been nothing but nice to me." I say a long time admirer of George. Don't agree with him on a lot of things, but I certainly recognise that he's a fantastic orator. He can make the case. He's more knowledgeable than anyone else currently in politics who's running. Remember, it wasn't so long ago that George Galloway and Nigel Farage on the subject of Brexit were actually on the same team. And Farage gets a lot of credit for getting the Brexit result, but I think it might have been George Galloway that delivered those like 3.5 million Muslim Pakistani votes that voted for Brexit. You believe that? All on side, suddenly when there was something where we could make a meaningful change, when we could actually enjoy some democracy, that the forces of, let's say, the right and the forces of the abandoned left were all on the same side. Can you believe it? So it's like there's no one they're not afraid of Farage. They'll put him in front of the cameras. They'll take every chance they can to put him up, to try and trip him up, but they won't even attempt to make George look foolish. They won't even attempt it. They're afraid of him. And they're not going to stop being afraid of him. The Workers' Party and George Galloway will receive no mainstream coverage whatsoever and won't be invited to any debates this election cycle. Why? Because they have to go. They're not to be entertained. See, that's the thing, that's the side I always end up on, is the side that won't even be given a platform, won't even be entertained. They'd say that we are fools and call us all kinds of ists, but they won't take us on. None of us. I'm happy to be in that, like, small minority of these guys can actually win an argument, so we can't risk a fair fight. We've got to smear these people. We've got to call them names and look down on them and actually ensure they receive no sunlight, no recognition. Ain't that a thing, eh? You've heard the ridiculous questions asked by the mainstream media today. Attempted gotchas. There was a very good question came from, I think it was a Telegraph journalist who was there, who tried to shame George because he's got it in the manifesto that in the future he'd like to have a referendum on whether we continue to have the monarchy. Fair enough. It's been coming for a long time. That's worth talking about. And they said, do you think that it's in good taste that with two of the royals currently suffering from cancer that you actually speak like this? And that'd be the question from the Daily Telegraph correspondent. It's like, is that all you've got? Oh, the royals, so mean to the royals, like imaginary friends. It's like, are you also into fairy tales? Which is how George dealt with it. Oh, so we're talking about fairy tale princesses and princes now, are we? Made the case rather well. Do you think that that exchange is going to see the light of day and make it to the news? No, the only place you'll see it is if you go onto YouTube and watch the press conference. Ain't it a thing, eh?